Ladies and gentlemen, we begin tonight with breaking news that has the attention of Washington and beyond. In an extraordinary move, Hamas has issued a direct and urgent appeal to former President Donald Trump, delivering a personal letter that underscores the gravity of the situation unfolding in the Middle East. The story making headlines across the United States tonight is the breaking development that Hamas, the Palestinian militant group at the center of decades-long conflict in the Middle East, has issued a direct and unprecedented appeal to former U.S. President Donald Trump through a personal letter. The move is unusual, not only because Hamas is reaching beyond the current administration in Washington, but also because it signals just how powerful the image of Trump remains in the global arena, nearly 4 years after leaving the Oval Office. For American audiences, this is more than an international headline. It is a striking reminder that U.S. politics, past and present, continue to shape the world far beyond our borders. The personal letter reportedly arrived through undisclosed channels, and while details are still emerging, sources close to the matter suggest that Hamas framed its message as an urgent plea for intervention. Observers in Washington are already pointing out how remarkable this step is. Traditionally, groups engaged in conflict in the Middle East direct their appeals to sitting presidents, State Department officials, or international bodies like the United Nations. For Hamas to sidestep those channels and go directly to Trump reflects not only its desperation, but also the enduring perception that Trump holds sway over certain global narratives. This development comes at a time when tensions in the Middle East are again escalating. The fact that Hamas would choose Trump, rather than President Joe Biden or Secretary of State Antony Blinken, highlights a level of strategic calculation. For many Americans, it recalls Trump's heavily publicized foreign policy approach, including his decision to relocate the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and his efforts in brokering normalization agreements between Israel and several Arab nations. While controversial at home, those moves solidified his reputation abroad as a leader willing to take bold, unconventional actions. Hamas may be betting that his willingness to break with traditional diplomatic norms could draw fresh attention to their cause. From a United States perspective, the letter underscores the complexity of America's role in global affairs. Even after a presidency marked by divisive rhetoric, Trump remains a figure who can shift conversations and command headlines. Political analysts across U.S. media networks are now debating whether this move is meant to provoke the current administration, to create political pressure inside the U.S., or to appeal directly to Trump's large base of supporters, many of whom remain highly engaged in foreign policy debates. Either way, this is no ordinary appeal. It is a calculated attempt to use America's political divisions as leverage in an international crisis. Critics argue that Hamas's outreach to Trump may be more symbolic than substantive. After all, Donald Trump no longer holds official office and does not control U.S. foreign policy decisions. Yet symbolism in politics carries weight, particularly in a media-driven world. By sending this letter, Hamas ensures that its message reaches not just Trump, but millions of Americans who continue to follow his every move. In a climate where U.S. voters are already focused on global instability, from the war in Ukraine to rising tensions with China, this new development inserts the Middle East conflict directly into America's political conversation once again. For Americans watching this story unfold, the implications are both sobering and complex. On one hand, it highlights the perception that the United States is still the ultimate power broker in world affairs, capable of influencing outcomes even when its officials are not directly engaged. On the other, it raises questions about how much influence a former president should wield and whether global actors are exploiting U.S. internal politics for their own gain. For Trump's supporters, the letter may be interpreted as evidence of his continued relevance on the world stage. For his critics, it is a troubling reminder of the divisions that make America's foreign policy landscape difficult to navigate. As news of this personal letter spreads, Americans are bracing for the political storm it could unleash. Lawmakers in Washington are expected to respond. Commentators on both sides of the political aisle are preparing their talking points, and the Biden administration may soon face pressure to clarify its stance. But one thing is certain: This breaking development shows that when it comes to global crises, the United States, through its current leaders and even its past ones, remains firmly at the center.